Alright, hey guys, we're back to another video. We got episode 0, we got the syllabus, we got the day 1, however you want to call this. Okay, just making sure it's working over here. So, this is starting something I want to do for myself, but also for you guys, because I know a few people that would love this, break it down, and it just kind of checks off some stuff. So in this series, I'm going to be going over, well, let's already start what the series is. This is called One Piece 101, or as I'm going to call it, 101 Piece. We're going to be going through One Piece, one arc at a time. It's not the catchphrase, I just threw it up there because it's cool. I bought a whiteboard for this. It's great. Pretty much the premise of this is I've watched all of One Piece. Okay, I've seen every single episode, filler included. And I've caught up on the manga as of chapter 1112. But I haven't read it all, right? So I read after near the end. That's where I got up to reading. And then up to like chapter 200 something. So I haven't read that middle part. And then for the anime, I'm also caught up. But up until like Whole Cake, like end of Whole Cake, I was watching dub, which I don't think is a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, if you watch dub, go for it. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, with how big of a fan I am, I want to check it off that I've watched in sub and dub, every single thing, and I've read every single chapter. So, what I'm going to be doing is I will be going through the entire series again, start from finish. And I'm going to be breaking down every single arc. But I'm going to be doing it in almost like a classroom format for 2 reasons. 3 reasons. 1, funny. 2, I feel like I can use this as an advantage to help you guys. You know, if you want to actually like dive deep and we go through the series together, or, you know, we kind of like, it can be a way to build off each other. And finally, eventually I want to be a teacher, so this is going to be good progress. I actually have a Google Classroom. That's going to be in the description. Well, first off, my Discord's in the description. Join that. I'm going to be posting like Google Classroom, like I'm going to have my syllabus that we're going to go over in this video, all there. But I will also be having a Google Classroom where I'm going to kind of do like assignments. It's not really getting it right or wrong, and if you do, it's not going to affect you because this isn't actual school. But kind of like test your knowledge, test your understanding, because sometimes it's deeper, sometimes you're missing stuff. A lot might be some theories that we go over, but I do also want to say this will be as spoiler-free as possible. So, I have something on the back of this board, I have my syllabus, and a few things to show you. So, let's get into the syllabus. Alright, welcome to 101 Piece class syllabus. Hello, I'm Dr. Zomring, that's me. Welcome to One Piece 101. Or how I will refer it to now on, 101 Piece. In this class, I'll be rewatching, and alongside that, reading the manga start to finish. As I do, I'll break down each arc of the stuff you missed, stuff that will be answered later, and more. But most importantly, I will try my best to make it as spoiler-free as possible. So obviously, I'm human, and I also know what happens. So all the spoilers, I know. But I'm going to try my best to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but alongside that, making sure you guys catch everything. So if there's something that has already happened, I'm going to show you. But if there's something that's very important, depending what it is, if it's, say, in the same saga, and I'll explain that in a second. If it's spread out, very close, right? Because One Piece is large. If this like reference happens within the next 10-15 episodes, I might mention it. But say it's happening 300-400 chapters or episodes later, I'm not gonna mention it until that following point. So say something is mentioned at chapter 5 and it's not mentioned until chapter 500, I will mention chapter 500 that happened in chapter 5. I'm not gonna say anything about keeping it relevant. But say it happened in chapter 5 and is referenced in chapter 7, I'm going to mention that. Because that's, you know, it's right there. Whether it's in the next episode, whether it's 2 episodes from now. But that's the idea. But again, And then with what I'm saying, like within this, right, it's going to be important stuff, but it's also if you're an anime or manga only, because I'm going to be doing it both. So if there's a very important manga panel or phrase that was translated differently in the sub or dub or just not shown, I'm going to say that, because that does happen. Or vice versa. If there's like a really cool or important anime moment that is relevant, that kind of like builds off to emotion, to character development, that is canon, that not just some random filler episode and not just whatever that I think is important to my own discretion, I will mention that as well. But I'll also mention that this is anime only. So if you don't want to take that as canon and you're only reading manga, then go for it. I'm not telling you you have to, but I just want to mention that because obviously One Piece is so large. Going down, each class, I'll go one arc and I'll go over the timeline of events, cover stories, then the plot and character growth, if any, in these episodes. As stated above, I'll keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but at the same time, I'll try and point out any key points that may come back in the near future or same saga. Or, I'll not point stuff out at that time, stuff out that will come into play 300 episodes later. In that situation, I'll talk about it in the follow-up. So in that following episode, that reference happens. The episodes and chapters I will do per episode are below. So before we get into this, there is two things I'm going to clarify. What arcs are and what sagas are. So arcs, I do have defined here because I'm doing it like for very specifically for this, just to help myself out. I will be defining arcs by the island covered during a set number of episodes or chapters. I will also be going over filler arcs. So there's anime filler arcs. I'm going to do that as an anime only. Like I will be doing an episode on that for fun. Just I rewatched it. Hey, this is really fun. You should watch this. Or something goofy. Or just to make you realize that this is not canon. Like I will separate it so you know this is not part of the main story. Below is a list of each arc in order with the episodes and chapters so you know what will be covered. So that way if you're keeping up and you don't want to be spoiled, it's like, oh, well, I actually cover up to chapter 213 and you're only at chapter 190. Don't watch it. Know that arc, which I'll have in the title and the description, I'll have what I cover. You will know, hey, take a break, come back. The number will change depending on some arcs, right? So, I'll go over that later, especially later in the New World, where some arcs are 80 to 200 episodes long. So, again, I'll explain that in a second. So, arcs will be defined by the island, but there are multiple arcs in a saga. So, I'm going to start this off with East Blue, going over the arcs that I'm going to go over, and explain how that is overall the East Blue saga. So it's going to start off with Romance Dawn, which is chapter 1 through 7, and it'll be episodes 1 through 3. I will do that as its own episode. Okay, that is the very first part. That is like the first island. Then we go to Orange Town, which is chapters 8 through 21, episodes 4 through 8. Syrup Village, 22 through 41, and episodes 9 through 18. Then we're going to go to Baratier, which is chapter 42 through 68, episode 19 through 30. Arlong Park, which is 69 through 95, and episodes 31 through 44. Logtown, 96 through 100, episodes 45 through 53. Then there's Warship Island, which is episode 45 through 61. So that is filler. That is not relevant to the story, but it is an enjoyable watch in my opinion, and I want to go over my thoughts. This is also like going to be kind of a review for me, going over each arc. But that's all part of the East Blue saga. That's all part of the East Blue. But it's broken up into many islands, and that way I can break it up easier. And obviously these are much smaller, but it's going to get much larger. So if we go into the following, which is the Alabasta or Baroque Works saga. It's called the Baroque Works saga. We start with Reverse Mountain. This is where we go into the main story, right? This is kind of where we're ending the live action East Blue for those people that are there, because that's kind of where people are. But if you're just starting, don't worry, I'm not going to mention anything about the end until it is relevant. So Reverse Mountain, then you get into Whiskey Peak. Again, you can look here. This will be in my Google Classroom and my Discord I'll have this list so you can have this pulled up, especially so you can keep it updated, because I'm going to change some things and I'll explain at the end. I'm going to go into Little Garden, Drum Island, and then Alabasta, okay, which goes to episode 130. But then we have Post Alabasta, which is episode 131 to 135. This is technically filler, though it's pretty important. There's just some transitions that happen here. And these transitions, I think, are important because this builds some character development that is important, and just kind of like bonding and connecting throughout the crew. But again, that is all the Alabasta arc. So then we have these filler arcs right here, Goat Island and Ruluk. These are filler. These are not important, but I'm going to break them up in their own. I know this is only 2 episodes. That might only be like a 7-minute video, but to know that that is its own little arc, but more importantly, it's filler. Then we're going to Jaya and Skypiea. Then Jade is another filler. Long Ring, Longland. Ocean's Dream, which is filler. Foxy's Return, which is filler. Then right here is another one, right? This is all the Water 7 arc, and a lot of people just call this Water 7 overall, but we're going to different places and doing different things. And because it's such a large one, I'm breaking it up. So Water 7, when they're on Water 7, is chapter 322 to 374. And is episode 229 to 263. But then it goes to Ennis Lobby, which is 375 to 430, 264, and 312. But then we have Post Ennis Lobby, which, though is part of Ennis Lobby, I feel like is important because it's just a transition here, and especially with some of these, like this one specifically, there's gonna be a lot of lore and information released. So I want to make sure I can spend time to break it up. This one also has, I believe, some filler episodes in it. So I can take those out. That's not important, but explain them, because again, it does give some character development. But more importantly, like with the manga, it can give you a lot of lore. And then we're gonna keep going until we get to Amazon Lily and put down Marineford, post Marineford, then time skip. So I'm gonna explain this now. I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but skip ahead to whatever on screen. That's what I'm gonna stop talking about this. So One Piece is broken up into, the world of One Piece is broken up into a few different sections. We have the 4 seas, north, east, south, and west blue. Then you go into Reverse Mountain, which will get you into the Grand Line. The Grand Line is split into 2 parts. It is called Paradise at the beginning. Then we have the Red Line, and I want to explain all this when we get there in the series. And then it is the New World. Right around the Grand Line, the end of Paradise, when they go into the New World and they reach the Red Line, that is time skip. Every show has a time skip, and then that's where we go off. So hey, welcome back if you want to skip that. If not, let's continue. So we have all these. I'm not going to break it in, but like right here, so we have Caesar Revival, which is filler, but then we have Dressrosa up to Colosseum, and then I have the question marks here because I'm breaking it up by episode, but I don't know what chapters these necessarily align, because it's not 1 chapter per 1 episode, especially with filler pacing. Some chapters, like some episodes, like 2 chapters, some it's 3, some it's 1. So it's a little iffy, and I will update that as I read. So if I finish reading, you'll see that's what it goes up to. So if you're going back and it's like, okay, so what are these covered? It will be in the video. But as of right now, I don't know, and this is where it starts, and then it kind of gets bad. So obviously, this is where Dressrosa ends, but then it goes again with Wano. I don't quite know where all these end, because I don't want to do, 90 episodes. That's a lot. So I'm trying to break it up so it's more digestible for you too, because I don't think you want to listen to a 2-hour lecture. But in each of these, there's a few other points that I want to go over that I have on my board back here. So let's switch camera angle, and we're going to talk about kind of how a class will run. So right back here, this is kind of what a One Piece class lecture will be looking like. So we have the name of the arc, so One Piece Arc 1, so the first one would be Romance Dawn. I might put this, might not, whatever. We're going to have a timeline, and then we're going to have what's covered. So what's covered specifically in this is chapter 1, 2, 3, episode what. But then we're going to have the cover stories, right? So this is what the cover stories are. So I put Mystery Volume 1, and I'll show you what the cover stories are in a second. I have an example pulled up, the earliest version, so I don't want you to be spoiled, but guys, it's like 50 chapters. It's like 35 chapters in is where both of these pop up. So if you're really early on, you know, don't worry about it, but I don't think anyone's going to be worried if you're watching this that early on. And then you're going to have the SBS. So in One Piece Arc 0, we're going to cover SBS 1, 2, 3. Okay? So then we have the timeline. Because some of these arcs get really confusing because multiple things are happening at once. So right here's this thing's happening, there's this thing's happening, and this thing's happening. Obviously, they're like 50 episodes apart. So it's like, oh, this obviously happened after this and after this. But no, there's 3 major events that are happening like 100 parts, especially, again, post-time skip, and that gets really convoluted. So I'm going to break it up. So right here at the beginning of episode 1, chapter 1, wherever these take place, and they're going to end at episode 4, chapter 7, right? Because the episodes have a faster pacing. We have Luffy happens around here, which is like day 1 or something. There's an island. Here's a fight 1, fight 2, right after each other, right? There's this big time, but then we have fight 1, 2, maybe something happens here, but then we have a party at the end. Well, we won. So I'm going to break it up. I'm going to try to, now when I actually do this, both sides, so this side will be covered, and then I'm going to zoom it in, right? I'm going to have it bigger because we're going to break it up, because that's going to be a big part of it. But then we do have, I'm going to go over the cover stories in SBS in a second. But while I do this part, after we go over the timeline of everything that happened, we'll break it up. And after we break it up, I will be going over the plot and relevance. Because obviously that's going to be the meat of it, right? That's going to be where the main source of the episode is. This will be helpful, and also in the description of all these, I will have a timestamp. So if you just are confused about the timeline, and I spend 5 minutes because it's a confusing timeline, go for it. Don't worry about watching the whole thing. It's just what you need to gain out of this. So I'm gonna cut, and let's go check out what the SBS and cover stories look like. Okay, so right here is a cover story. Again, this is not, it's chapter 35, the steep slope. Now, it's not relevant to the cover story. So sometimes cover stories are important. Generally, they're just a cool picture, really nothing. I'm not going to go over every single one. That's 1,000 extra things. But sometimes there are actual mini stories in there. So, for example, eventually, we fight Buggy. And Buggy does something in the live action, he does something different in the anime, but in the manga, which this does get anime adaptation, but later, and I'll explain that, generally, so that's why I want to go over it now, and then it'll happen later, and it's like, okay, so this episode is the animated one of the cover story. So this one, we have Buggy running away. Generally, now, there's a title down here, too. So it's like Volume 3 of Buggy's Adventures. So this is the first one, so that wasn't a thing, so maybe it's in Volume 2, and I'm going to go over that in every single one, though. But then we also have SBS. So the SBS questions, I'm going to go over which ones and which volume. So this one is the first one, it's chapter 28, Volume 2, or whatever, so I'm going to explain that. But I'm not going to go over the questions and answers, because there's so many, and I constantly see shorts going over some fun ones, but it's just really confusing if you just want the plain information. That's what this is. I'm trying to get as much information as possible. I'm not trying to do, an hour long on just one chapter at a time. It's just, here's the arc, and here's just the plain information, and then if I want to do more, and you guys want that, we can do that. But what I'll do is I'll make a short of it as I read. So if I'm reading, I'm like, okay, here's an SBS. I'm going to take a picture right here, like this. I will speak over it, and I'll read it. And I'm going to label it Chapter 28 SBS 1. It's like, whatever SBS. So this is SBS 1, SBS 2, Chapter 28. Whatever. I'll put that in the title, description, whatever. And I will put that in the description of the main video. So obviously this would be... Arc 1. So in the first video, I will put that. or wherever it is. And then I'll also do a big playlist of just the SBS, right? So you can go in order. So here's the first one, and I'm going to do that in order. That will be uploaded before, right? So once I read that, I will do it, right? Before I keep reading, I will make a video of that. At the end, I will recap if there's something important that happened in an arc, but generally it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes we hear about character, family lineage, we learn about devil fruits, this and that. So, but these will, just the plan, I'm just going to flat out read it. I'm not going to discuss it, I'm just going to read it, and now you have that information. But then if there is something important, that's what I will cover in the main video. So now we're going to go into the final section of episode 0. Obviously, this one's made a little longer, a little repetitive, whatever. Just trying to cover all my bases. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. Let me know Discord, Google Classroom, wherever. I will be actively checking this, especially once this gets uploaded and started. I'll be actively checking all the places for questions or emails, etc., etc. But I have 3 questions back here. What is OP? What are DF? And who is the crew? So we're going to go bottom to top. So, obviously, there's a lot, right? There's a lot. And that's just kind of the way it goes. I'm just checking something over here real quick. So, who's the crew? I'm going to try to put some pictures up. We have, these are, not the whole crew, right? Because that's spoilers. But I'm going to go over the first character. Luffy. He's the captain. There's no other way around that. He's the captain. He's a stretchy dude. He got a devil fruit, and he wants to be king of the pirates. That's it. I'm going to go over who the crew is as they're introduced, because the East Blue Saga slowly introduces them. So when we get introduced to them, I'll show that. But it's pirate anime, right? So if you really don't know that and you've gone all this far, it's pirate anime. What are DF? DF stands for devil fruits. Luffy ate the gum fruit. So here's a picture of that. It's one of the power systems because it is an anime. It's a shonen, so they're gonna have a fancy power system that's a little wacky. So devil fruits let you do a lot of different things. I'm gonna explain what the devil fruit power is when we get there, but there's gonna be 3 different types of devil fruits. You have Logia, Paramecia, and Zoan. You don't meet a lot of them until later on, and I'm going to explain, some downsides, what they can do, because they have, different tiers, this and that. But generally, Logia is elemental, right? So fire, water, ice, lightning, all those kind of things. They're Logias. Zoans are animals. They can be dinosaurs, they can be dead, they can be alive, whatever. And when I say dead, extinct, they can not exist, they can be myth, whole bunch of different things. They're animals. They're animal spirits or creatures, I should say. Then you have Paramecia, which is everything else. So Luffy is stretchy. He is a Paramecia. And again, I don't want to say too much because that's a spoiler, but there's so many different ones, especially Paramecia. It gets really weird. But finally, what is OP? Obviously, OP stands for One Piece. What is the One Piece? Well, guess what? We don't know what the One Piece is, but obviously at the beginning, it is Gold D. Rogers' treasure. It's everything that he gained. Wealth, fame, fortune. And there's a lot of theories to what it is, but again, I don't want to get into that right now, because that stuff and what it truly is a question thrown throughout the whole entire series, as that is the goal of the series, is finding the One Piece. In the Grand Line, which we talk about later, I'll go through it, and we'll learn about it as we go on. But yeah. I think that's really it. And like I said, if you have questions, ask me. I'm learning. This is going to be a learning experience for me. So if you guys think I can improve in a certain way, let me know. Whatever you think. But thank you if you watched this point. I hope you enjoy this journey. I hope this helps you out. And I hope you learned something. Remember, if you want to be notified, join the Discord, whatever, or subscribe so you know when another episode is released, whether it's an SBS, whether it's a One Piece reaction, because I'll still be reacting to the new episodes, and I'll be reading the chapters when they come out live with you guys. So if you want to join that and discuss that if you're caught up, but if you're not, remember, don't watch, because, about 1,000 chapters that you might be missing. With that, catch ya the next one. Peace.